Welcome, dear viewers, to Poetry Blows Our Blues Away. Today we are going to read and enjoy John F. Kennedy's most favorite poem, the most representative poem of the Victorian era, an all-time motivational poem. Several lines from the poem are borrowed by several educational institutions to describe their vision and mission. The author of this poem was the poet laureate of his times. Queen Victoria read him whenever she was low and got comforted. In these days of globalization, the poem is most relatable because it believes in pushing the boundaries. It is a great inspiration for senior citizens and youth alike. Friends, the poet is none other than Alfred Lord Tennyson, and the poem is the dramatic monologue Ulysses. Ulysses, the Greek hero, makes this farewell speech. It's a monologue, friends, not a dialogue. Ulysses is the single speaker. The poem provides the drama element too. We listen to it spellbound and awestruck till the end. It's so skillfully drafted, skillfully scripted, crafted. We come to know the setting too from the poem itself as it unfolds. Let me brief you, friends, about the context of the poem. Ulysses is the king of Ithaca, a small island country. He participated in the Trojan War, which took place for 10 years between the Trojans and the Greeks. After the war, while returning home, he encountered adventures for 10 more years. Thus, after 10 years war and 10 years wandering, he returns home. That means he is quite an old man now. Yet, he finds life at Ithaca dull and boring. So, he decides to begin a fresh quest in search of new adventures. He assembles his family and his people on the seashore before boarding the boat and makes this inspiring farewell speech. In today's episode, we are going to read and enjoy the first part of the poem, the first poetic paragraph, first verse paragraph. Here it goes. It little profits that an idle king by this still hearth among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I meet and dole unequal loss unto a savage race that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. I cannot rest from travel. I'll drink life to the lees. Let me pause here. Let us analyze these lines. Life of a king doesn't appeal to him at all. It little profits, he says, that an idle king. The activities of a king appear idle to him, boring to him, very, very dull to him. So it's not at all profitable in his view. He cannot bear the silence of his home, the humdrum and the monotonous life of his rocky island country. His wife Penelope too is no match to his enthusiasm and energy. His people cannot understand or appreciate his worth and wisdom. They know only hoarding, sleeping and feeding. They don't appreciate his worth at all. So he has to settle their disputes. In turn, they call him partial and biased. So he calls them a savage race. Moreover, he says, I cannot rest from travel. It is impossible for him to stop traveling. I will drink life to the lees. Lees are the last drops we leave in a tumbler of drink. Here he is comparing his life to a drink. He doesn't want to leave even the last drops of his life. That means he wants to live his life energetically till he breathes his last. He wishes to live life adventurously. Being a warrior king, he aptly compares his life to a drink. He wants to savor the flavor of his drink. Even the last drops also, he wants to enjoy them. Thus he asserts himself. Now let's continue. All times I have enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone, on shore and when through scudding drifts, the rainy heights vex the dim sea. I am become a name for always roaming with a hungry heart. Let us pause here. He has enjoyed both the pleasures and pains of life, pains and pleasures of life. Sometimes he had company, he had the company of his fellow mariners. Sometimes he was all alone. Sometimes the adventures took place on shore, and at other times in the midst of the storm-disturbed sea. I am become a name for always roaming with a hungry heart. Means he has become a metaphor for an adventurous life. Much have I seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not least, but honored of them all, and drunk delight of battle with my peers, far on the ringing plains of windy Troy. He says he has seen much, known much. Cities of men, manners, climates, councils, governments. Wherever he went, he was not a silent spectator, he was an honored guest. Myself not least, but honored of them all, says he, and drunk delight of battle with my peers. He has tasted the drink of, tasted the delight of battle that he compares to a drink by fighting his peers, his equals in the Trojan War. I am a part of all I have met. He has gathered so much experience. His past is full of adventure. Yet is very important here. Yet, he says, all experience is an archway through gleams that untraveled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. His past experience he compares to an arch, an opening, an archway, an entrance only, through which glimmers, shines, and the unexplored world, the untraveled world beckons to him. And as he approaches to catch it, as he approaches to step on it, it fades, it disappears forever and forever. That means it's an unending journey. He never means to return. So that is his ambition. So ambitious is he, so optimistic, so oozing ambition at every pore, oozing positive attitude at every pore. So here he says, here we come to a powerful exclamation, a brilliant example for the figure of speech called exclamation. How dull it is to pass, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life. So he has nothing but contempt for people who do not live an adventurous life. He says how dull it is. Dull as dishwater, to pass, to sit and relax, to sleep on your laurels, to make an end, to put a full stop, to rust unburnished. See here once again he is comparing his life to a sword, being a warrior king, an apt comparison. So he doesn't want to hide his sword in the sheath or the scabbard and let it gather rust. Not to shine in use, he wants to use the sword of his life and make it shine in use. He says, that's why it is said, if you rest, you rust. If you don't use, you lose. So as though to breathe were life. Simply breathing is not life. Simply breathing is not the definition of life in Ulysses' view. Life piled on life were all too little, and of one to me little remains. But every hour is saved from that eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things. So here he says, life piled on life, a pile of lives, a group of lives, a heap of lives is not at all enough to explore the universe. And of that too, he is sure only of one life, this life. And of that too, little remains, very little remains. That means he is in the autumn of his life, he is in the evening of his life. So he wants to hurry and save every hour from that eternal silence. Eternal silence means death. So how is he going to save every hour of his future life from the eternal silence, death? By living life in a dynamic fashion, in a lively way, in an adventurous way. So he says every hour is saved from that eternal silence, a bringer of new things. Who knows, it may bring new things into his life. It may make him discover new worlds. And while it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself. Some astrologer has foretold him that he would live for 3 more years. So he says it's while, V-I-L-E, while means villainous. It's villainous of me, wicked of me, cruel of me for to store and hoard my faculties without using them. And this grey spirit, though I have become old, my spirit is yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. And this grey spirit, yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. So ambitious is he. So here he says, I want to follow knowledge. Knowledge is compared here to a sinking star, that is the setting sun. The sun appears to sink into the horizon, appears to disappear into the sea at the horizon. That means he wants to travel beyond the horizon, beyond the utmost boundary of human imagination. So it's the ultimate of ambition. You cannot describe it we cannot describe it in a better way. So even if we want to translate it into other words, it becomes a beggar description. So here he says, and this grey spirit yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. So here ends the first verse paragraph, friends. In the next episode, we are going to read and enjoy the second verse paragraph of Ulysses, the dramatic monologue, where Ulysses, the speaker, addresses his son Telemachus. Bye for now. Till then, till we meet again. Happy poetry reading.